Hey guys, I know I don't really do any sort of solo intro to any of my guests, and it's not something I would normally do in the future, but I had a little bit of microphone problem with the podcast that you were about to listen to or watch on YouTube. I spent a long time trying to get that talk with Brady Leonard, and I almost decided to ask him if he could come back and re record it, but that wouldn't have been fair to him. Both of us are very busy. Both of us spend a lot of time working and making sure that we bring you the best content out there that we can possibly bring you. With that in mind, and with all of the good takes that we both got having this episode, I ran the episode audio through a few different programs to help clean it up. It's not perfect by any means. It's going to be one of the worst quality episodes of Ed's World that we've had, sound wise, of course, but the quality of the content is very good, and I recommend that you go through and just listen to it and listen to the words and not so much the microphone noise. I've done some searching around my laptop, and I think I found the source of where my microphone problems were. It was on the software side, it wasn't anywhere on the hardware. As you're seeing now, I just changed all the cords, and I don't think that was causing me a problem. I think there was a problem somewhere on the sound card side, but I think that's taken care of right now. I apologize for the clipping. Again, I cleaned it up as best I could, but technology can only take us so far. So thanks for bearing with us, and enjoy Brady Leonard. Good morning and welcome to Ed's World, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. My name is Jay Edgar, and over to the left of your screen you are seeing, for probably the first time on camera, the wonderful Brady Leonard. Brady, you were my first fan on Twitter after I decided to go public with all this, so forgive me if I fanboy just a little bit while we're doing this here, but we're going to talk a couple of topics today. We're going to run a little bit of a shorter show this week, but I'm going to talk to Mackenzie, who's going to be on next week, and see if she can't run a sixth topic or something and get a little bit of them on their show and maybe get the listeners what they come here for every week. But before we get into topics here, let's start with our guest here, Brady. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh well, thanks for having me on, man. It's good to be here. I always like going on other shows and stuff and building that community of podcasters. You know, we all have each other's backs, and that's definitely a good thing. But yeah, I host the No Gimmicks Podcast on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, all that stuff every Monday and Wednesday, and I'm the singer and guitar player in the rock and roll band Southbound Fearing, and I know it's a weird combination of professions, but yeah, that's what I got.
And for those who don't know, you are listening to the voice that sings the outro music on every one of my solo videos, so I hope everybody goes and visits the band page and everybody goes and visits the No Gimmicks Podcast as well.
Absolutely, do it.
I
don't know.
One of the first questions I always do ask my guests is a question that always has a different answer, but always lands in the same place. Why don't you tell us how you got into doing alternative media and putting on a podcast in the first place?
You know, I tour with the band a lot. I'm on the road, several months out of the year typically, and we don't have a driver or anything, so we're driving the van, and a lot of drives overnight, sometimes 8, 12, 15 hours at a time. And so I've always listened to podcasts, since the beginning of the podcast world, maybe, 5, 6 years ago. I've always listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was a big fan of Joe Rogan's show, and, I've always been a conservative, and, I've been a fan of, guys like Ben Shapiro and Jonah Goldberg and all these guys, Steven Crowder. And, I've always wanted to do a podcast because if you've ever toured with a band, your conversations in the van are just a podcast. I mean, it's like our van rides are basically like a Joe Rogan podcast. Hours and hours of us just talking shit and talking about whatever, talking about politics, talking about faith, talking about culture or whatever. And so I've always wanted to do it. And I was talking with one of my best friends and our former co-host and producer Josiah Hughes, and we're like, look, we talk all the time about politics, and we have some really interesting things to say. Maybe we should do a political show, but make it kind of long form, somewhere in between like a Joe Rogan and like a punditry show, like a Ben Shapiro or something like that. Like, I wouldn't want to do either one of those formats, but what if we try to blend the two? And we went back and forth, and we were talking about it for 6 months at least. And I was watching the election coverage in 2016. I was actually my wife and I were at my parents' house. We always get together at my parents' house every 2 years to watch the results come in. We called it the end of the world party. Sorry, trying to get my cat out of here. Sorry about that. But so we're watching that, and Josiah was at his house in Jacksonville, Florida, and he was watching the results come in, and I'm just flipping it back and forth between Fox News and MSNBC. And on Fox News, they're all like, yeah, see, we told you guys that Trump was going to win, which was, of course, bullshit. I don't think Trump himself thought that he was going to win. So they were obviously liars. And then I flipped over to MSNBC, and Martha Raddatz was crying. Was crying on it. Was like an adult woman in her like late 50s or early 60s was crying on TV because her preferred candidate lost an election. And I texted Josiah. I was like, are you watching this shit, man? Like, we got to do this. We got to get into this, because if we aren't better than these people, I mean, the bar is so low. Even idiots like us can do political commentary if that is the bar. You know, lying on both sides and bawling your eyes out because Hillary Clinton lost. I'm like, these people are so the media being so terrible at their job is what pushed me into the arena, essentially.
And that is kind of what it is, too. I actually just answered a Quora question. I don't know if you're familiar with the Google service Quora at all.
I'm not.
It's basically people write in. It's a basic format. People write in a question and other people go in and answer that. And one person asked something about what's the left-wing equivalency of Fox News. And when I answered, I said, well, first we have to assume that Fox News is right-wing, which it is really no longer.
Yeah, they have a few. They have their opinion side is right-wing. Or
that's true.
You know, right of center, or Tucker Carlson and you know, who's kind of a leftist on economics, and then right wing on a lot of other things, and then, you know, Hannity's a right wing guy. But yeah, they're hard news stuff. The Shepard Smith and Brett Baer and those guys play it pretty straight. It's not really a partisan thing on their hard news programs. But yeah, I can't really handle. I don't watch a lot of cable news. I can't. I can only watch it for about 15 minutes at a time, or I want to hang myself. So I try to stay away.
Well, we don't want any of that to happen. But speaking of the news not really doing their jobs, and those of us coming together and doing their jobs for them, why don't we talk a little bit about the Christchurch shooting to start off this show? Because I had a couple solo videos this week, and that happened, and I didn't really feel comfortable talking about it myself. But I did want to touch on a little bit on what's going on with that. I know you talked a bit about it on your show already this past week, but what did you see going on with that as it was developing, and even as it's going on now?
Well, I mean, there's nothing really to say about tragedies like that on a political level, other than, you know, pray for the you know, the people that are injured, you know, that are clinging on to their lives. Pray for the victims' families and everything like that. Is obviously a horrific tragedy. I think the death count's up to 50 at this point. But for me, I can really only comment on the political ramifications around it, and like the media, how the media's covered it and stuff. I think that's, you know, I don't really have anything to say about this evil madman who did these things. I hope you know, I hope New Zealand has the death penalty, and I hope he's executed swiftly. You know, but aside from that, you know, we're right back on the Democrats trying to take away our guns kind of thing immediately. I mean, it took, what, 30 seconds? I mean, I didn't check my stopwatch, but it was within a minute before senators were calling for gun confiscation. So they're very predictable. They have the same tried and true, predictable, boring response, which is guns are the problem, let's take away guns. And then they also try to, their main focus was what they've been focusing on the last few years as well, is just trying to attack Western civilization. So, like, see, look, the West is evil because this one white supremacist killed Muslims. Okay, all right. So tear down the West and replace it with what? Like, what you know, I get it. They want to take away our rights, and they're not a big fan of the West. You know, a very predictable response from the media and from the left, the political left.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to touch on here, because, I mean, we see somebody go and shoot something up, and we hear the same thing, just like you said over and over again. But the reaction of the media to everything is something that's really been keeping the focus that I have on all of this, because especially Ben Shapiro was one of the first ones that come out and say it, and a lot of other people have jumped on the bandwagons, and there are other people that have gone completely off the rails and said, no, we need to discuss this outright, and that is, in most every case, the media now doesn't want to say the names of anybody, which I'm on the fence about any of that, but in this particular case as well, they are talking about, well, don't even read the manifesto, don't even read anything about what this, don't even get this guy at the time of day, and the people of the world deserve to know what went on and why this went on, and maybe even see some of the trigger signs that we have out there. Maybe I'm alone in that thought. I don't know.
No, I totally agree with guys like Ben and guys like Glenn Beck, that we shouldn't be saying the guy's name because, like most of these shooters and people that, commit these kind of acts, they want to be famous. They want to be like, whatever, Charles Manson or something like that. They want the notoriety. So I'm definitely against saying their names. But, yeah, I don't know why people have been encouraged not to read what this guy wrote. I mean, I did. I read it, obviously. I had to for the show. But, yeah, I don't know why you shouldn't try to understand why evil happens in this world. I think it's a valuable information to have.
Well, from everything that I've heard about it, and I'll admit right out on the air, I haven't read the entire manifesto yet at this point, but, I mean, this guy was just...
I skimmed it. It's extremely long, so I didn't make it through the whole thing, but I caught the bullet points.
Is it like Mein Kampf level long, or not quite that long?
I think it's like 70-something pages. Yeah, it's not Mein Kampf, but close.
Well, that's the thing, too, is it seemed like this was just outright collapsitarian. This wasn't some right-wing, and I always say right-wing in quotes when they say white supremacist, because most everybody I know on the right actually condemns and disowns white supremacy, but...
Yeah, white supremacists are not right-wing, and they're not conservative at all. I mean, it goes back to the term alt-right. I mean, alt-right means an alternative to the right. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean an extension of the right. These are people that have completely rejected the right. They've rejected, Republican politics. They've rejected conservatism and libertarianism. And if you look at what these, excuse me, any of these alt-right types are, not just people that commit shootings or something like that, not, madmen like this, but even like the, your average alt-right fellow. If you look at what they actually want politically, they're all commies. I mean, they want government control over the economy. They want it's Bernie Sanders, but only for white people is what they want. So when they try to rope in, when the media and the Democrats try to rope in, a communist essentially, with mixed with racism and with the conservative movement, that's hilarious. I mean, saying that this guy has anything in common with Calvin Coolidge is absolutely ridiculous. He's a big government socialist, essentially. So, yeah, there's no place for those people in the conservative movement. It's just a nice bait and switch that the media tries to play on us.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, too. And, I mean, I'm kind of a little bit sheltered. I know that you live outside of Toledo, if I'm not mistaken, so you're kind of in a little bit bigger area than I am.
Yeah, I live right in Toledo.
Oh. Yep. So you're definitely in a bigger place than I am.
You're in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, I'm between Madison and Janesville, so.
Gotcha.
And kind of the rural area, but, I mean, I lived over in Milwaukee, and I didn't even get to see any of this. But for the last year, when I first moved into this new studio here, I was on Discord one day, and on Matt and Brown's Beauty and the Beta channel over on Discord, talking with my first experience with true neo-Nazis, my first actual experience discussing with them, and that was the first thing I took out of it, too, when they were talking about the order that they wanted for the world. I mean, this was flat-up socialism/communism, but only after we exterminate every other race from the world.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing. These people have nothing in common with us politically. It's just a vile... Even if you take, obviously, racism is evil. As a Christian, I believe it's anti-Christian. It's against everything the Bible teaches, and it's obviously anti-American. It's runs completely counter to everything that the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence has to say. But even if you take out the racist elements, I still wouldn't be able to stand these people. Take out the racism. They're just Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders is the biggest idiot in modern American politics. So, yeah, I have no. These people have no quarter in our neck of the woods. That's for sure.
What is the story with Bernie and stepping out of the shower? I've been seeing the pictures on this, but I haven't been able to corroborate that.
He got in a fist fight with his shower door apparently, and knocked himself out and had a bunch of stitches on his head or something. Look, the guy, hopefully he isn't seriously hurt or anything, but he's 78 years old. I was nervous. I mean, when President Trump was elected, he was 70, and he was the oldest elected American president. I believe Ronald Reagan was 67, 67 or 68 when he was elected. So we're talking about Trump becoming the oldest elected president at 70. Bernie Sanders will be 79 in 2020, and he looks like he's about 99 right now. And obviously he can't manage to take a shower without hurting himself. So it is really weird. I'm not proposing like age limits for elected office or anything like that. That would be discriminatory. But the Democrat, and he's probably the front runner. Bernie Sanders is probably the 2020 front runner for the Democrats, and he's so old he can't take a shower without hurting himself. It really is something.
Well, at least he has his pudding cup.
He does, yeah, and his Ben and Jerry's and everything else, yeah.
Speaking of President Trump and being the oldest and being the savior of the Republican Party when he was first elected, because that was the mantra that was going on with some of them. I wanted to talk about this Ann Coulter and Donald Trump feud that's been brewing over the last couple weeks. I've been trying to make a solo video about it for legitimately 2 weeks now, and something else just keeps coming up in the news, and I've got to cover it somewhere else. But I mean, that's been one of the most interesting things in politics I've seen thus far over this past month, was the fact that Coulter completely turned her back on it, and for some reason the American public cares.
Well, I don't care. To be honest, I've never read any of Ann Coulter's books. I don't really know that much about her. I mean, I've seen a few speeches and stuff like that, and I know she's got a bunch of followers on Twitter, and I know she's been a staple in right-wing media for a long time. But I've never honestly read any of her books. I don't really like the. I mean, I'm sure she's a very, very bright lady, but I don't like the. People like that always make me nervous. Where they're so focused on one issue, and her issue is just immigration. It's pretty much the only thing she cares about. It's the only thing she talks about, and she's for like majorly limiting legal immigration. I mean, she just wants less immigration across the board. She wants to deport all 13 million illegal aliens that are here now. I don't know how you would go about doing that. You'd need I don't know, calling the National Guard. I don't know how the hell you'd accomplish that, but that's her issue. She wants to get rid of all the illegals. And I mean, your audience might think I'm a squish on that, but I mean, look, I'd like to build the wall. I want to stop illegal immigration. I'm not in favor of deporting everybody, unless they've committed additional crimes. And living in Ohio, I'm sure I'd feel differently if I were in Texas or New Mexico, Arizona. But in Ohio, that's never been my number one issue. That's never been what gets me out to vote. There's a lot of things that I care about more than immigration. But it's really weird. I mean, she wrote the book "In Trump We Trust," which, as a Christian, that kind of makes me uncomfortable as well. But and then so Trump hasn't built a 2,000-mile long wall yet, so now she hates the guy and stuff, and it seems like she's campaigning against him. Which, like, what Democrat running would secure the border? Like what other, like, if you don't like Trump on the border, I mean, who is Ann Coulter gonna vote for? Is there somebody else running for president that's gonna try to secure the border more than President Trump? Like, I highly doubt that.
I want to take a quick aside for that, because you brought up something that's really been bothering me over the past 2 years of the Trump presidency, and even during his candidacy, and it is something that I see in Coulter, and the fact that her back is so turned on Trump now is, I mean, MAGA is a little bit of a religion, or it's getting to be, and that makes me nervous just in and of itself. And I think with a title like "In Trump We Trust," I think Coulter kind of promulgated that, maybe?
Right. I mean, it is. Like, it is both sides. It's not. I think the left is worse with their cult-like behavior around politicians. You see these people basically worshiping Ruth Bader Ginsburg now. Is the new figure on the left who's being, like, worshipped. It's very strange. But obviously people on the right do it too. I mean, human beings are tribal and everybody's susceptible to that. But yeah, the MAGA crowd does get a little cult-like from time to time, and like you said, it almost becomes religious, and that maybe that explains Ann Coulter's behavior. She's all in on Trump. Trump does something she doesn't like. Now she's all out. It's like, all right, well, I pray to God I never get to that point on anyone, not just in politics, but in my life in general, because that's not a healthy way to view human beings. Like, this is not like a healthy way. Like, it's okay to. I call out President Trump when he does something I don't like, and then I give him credit when he does something I like. Same with every other politician. Same with every other relationship I have in my life.
Yeah.
Like, there's no one in my life where I'm just gonna agree with everything they say all the time. Like, that would be crazy. That's not healthy, And then you don't just, if somebody pisses you off, you don't say, go scorched earth, like, oh, they're the worst person on the face. No. People are complicated. People make mistakes. There's good and bad in everybody, and especially when you're talking about politicians. So I think you're right. Like, that kind of vitriol coming from her right now might stem from like the religious nature of of politics. And I don't want to just say the MAGA movement, but just in American politics in general right now.
Well, and when this first all started to happen, I was listening to Styx's take on that, because generally in the morning when I have my coffee, I have coffee, make breakfast, and watch Styx Hexenhammer's 4 videos of the day. Or, man, that guy's a machine. I could never do anything like that. But
well, hey, do you eat eggs for breakfast? Because all the newspapers are saying you're going to die if you eat eggs now. Did you catch that?
I'm a human. I'm going to die if I take every one of their single recommendations.
No, people are now saying if you eat eggs, you're going to die quicker, which is ridiculous, because they said that in like the 90s, and then they switched it back. And yeah, I'm like, I eat 2 eggs for breakfast every morning, so whatever. I guess I'm rolling the dice. Anyway, sorry. I just came across that on Twitter this morning, so I had to bring it up.
I saw it yesterday, actually. I know where you were coming with that. But, I mean, I think Styx hit it right on the head when it first happened, and that is the fact that it was, like you had said about the 13 million illegals, and even going further than the 13 million illegals and all the legal immigration, and even the people who were born here at this point. I mean, that may be part of the fuel that's feeding the left right now on the fact that Trump is racist, is we had people like Coulter out there who did nothing but screech and scream during the 2015 election that electing Trump was how we were going to finally get all of the black and brown people out of this country, even though most of us who were more to the center knew that that wasn't a possibility and wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know who would even want that. It's just I don't know. I don't like any pundit who behaves like Ann Coulter is somebody who immediately turns me off on both sides of the aisle. The all in or all out mentality, the taking everything to its extreme. That's just not. It's not the way I do business. That's not the way I view the world. Look, and I don't want to draw conclusions here or anything, but I know anything you say before. But you should probably ignore it. But she got a lot of money and notoriety and sold a lot of books praising Trump, and she's probably looking to make a lot of money and get a lot of notoriety by blasting him now. I mean, it's about. She's been selling books for decades. She's trying to sell books. I don't think we need to think too hard about her motives. Maybe she really does hate the president now. Who knows? Maybe she's trying to hawk the next book. I don't know. Could go either way, I suppose.
Well, I mean, to me, Ann Coulter is like a right-wing political Kim Kardashian. She's very famous. She makes a lot of money for spreading her opinions, but I have no idea what she's famous for.
I don't know. No. I have no idea.
I mean, I see what she does now. I see the Twitter following she has now, but I don't know what she did to get there.
And just to sum up Ann Coulter and her turn on Trump, look, I get it. Like, if immigration, and especially illegal immigration, is she's obsessed with it. That's her focus. Trump hasn't done that much to secure the border. Obviously, not a lot of that's his fault. He's working with the Congress, even Republicans in Congress that don't really have much interest in securing the border. But I say this all the time. Remember, I had a friend who is a commentator who lives here in Toledo, Ohio, Ron Johns, who runs the Conservatarian. And I had him on, let's see, last summer. It was during the election season. Maybe it was in the fall, and he was so mad because now our current governor, Mike DeWine, who was Attorney General of Ohio before, it's like, well, Mike DeWine's a squish. He's a rhino. He's not conservative enough. You know, he has a B+ rating from the NRA instead of an A, and he's this and that. I'm like, dude, he's running against a communist. He's running against a legit socialist, Richard Cordray, who was an Obama-era cabinet official, and every single one of his policies were straight out of the Communist Manifesto. I'm like, dude, look, I will hold Mike DeWine's feet to the fire once he gets elected. But let's keep a communist out of the governor's mansion in Columbus first. Like, priorities, people, priorities. So I'm not that interested in blasting Trump. Like, I don't give a shit that Trump went after Kellyanne Conway's husband on Twitter. Like, I won't be talking about that on my next podcast because I don't care. Because Bernie Sanders is trying to become president and destroy the country. Rip apart the Constitution, take away our freedoms, destroy everything we hold dear. So, like, Trump maybe not getting enough wall built, does that piss me off? I guess. But it would piss me off to put a communist in the White House a hell of a lot more. So I'm going to focus on making sure communists don't get elected. And then I'll of course I'll hold the president's feet to the fire, but I'm not going to bitch and moan every day about every tweet or every little thing, this and that, when we're staring down the barrel of a communist gun right now from the Democratic Party. Okay, they want to pack the Supreme Court. They want to destroy the Electoral College. I mean, they want Medicare for all. They want to abolish private insurance. They want to bomb the hell out of every brown country in the Middle East. It is awful what these Democrats are trying to do. And I'd much rather focus on stopping them than nitpicking every little thing from this president.
And saying that, I can understand that entirely, because right now I would almost rather see a rhino than the socialist. I won't go full communist on the guy, but the socialist that we just put into Madison over here.
Yeah. What I don't know what happened over there, man. Scott Walker, I know he's not the most, engaging politician. He's not, and it's tough because he was running for a third term, and when you've been in office for 2 terms, it's tough to maintain your popularity. But he turned that state around. Like, he did a very good job, and then the voters rewarded him by kicking him out to the curb. So I'm like, I didn't see that one coming, to be honest with you.
I did. I think his political career was over when he suggested that we need to build a wall with Canada as well as Mexico. He tried to out Trump, and that's kind of what put the nail in the coffin for him.
Yeah, that was a weird one. I don't know what would possess him to make that comment.
Well, you said that you only had a half an hour for this, so we are kind of cutting on to the line here. So I want to finish out with one last segment here that I actually borrowed from your show because I've been listening to that since I got into alt media. Why don't you tell us a little something that you like to do that has nothing to do with politics or career, a hobby of yours? I don't really have to put any qualifiers on that because I borrowed it from you.
Yeah, it's funny. I always forget to end the show. For the first year or so, I ended every show with that question, but for some reason, I usually forget.
I love the segment. That's why I wanted to have it on there.
I got to bring it back. Thanks for reminding me, man. I got to bring that back. Yeah, look, anybody who listens to my show probably knows I'm a huge fisherman. I'm a big outdoorsman. I know you have a lot of good walleye fishing up in your neck of the woods, too.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I've been fishing in that area before. I fished on the Rock River quite a bit up there in northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. Anyway, fishing season is going to start here probably in the next couple weeks. The walleye are going to start running. I'm sure you guys have eaten some walleye up in Wisconsin.
I've eaten a lot of walleye in Wisconsin.
Yeah. I figured. But yeah, I live on the Maumee River, which is right on Lake Erie, and it has the largest walleye run anywhere in the world. And fishermen come in from all over the country, and it's great. You're literally standing shoulder to shoulder with fishermen all up this for like 10 miles of river. And yeah, as soon as the walleye start coming, I'm going to be out there every day, getting my bag limit, 5 fish a day, fill up the freezer so I can eat some walleye whenever I want for the rest of the year. Cannot wait for fishing season. Can't wait for the walleye run. And yeah, man, how about you? What do you got going on?
Well, I don't do a lot of fishing like walleye fishing, but I think one of the most enjoyable fishing runs I ever did, My sister's boyfriend has a boat up by Green Bay, and he does salmon fishing up there. So I got to go out there once. That was really enjoyable, and I kind of like the Lake Michigan salmon.
Hell yeah! I mean, those little bastards can put up a fight too.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say little. I mean, they. Yeah, you can get some 30, 40 pounders up there.
But as far as a hobby that I do, that's not political. Because you're the first person to ask me back, so I feel I should answer here. I was just talking to somebody before we went on the show here. I raise carnivorous plants.
Carnivorous plants.
Yes, I have probably about 12 Venus flytraps. I have 30 Cape sundews, which I need to sell a few of those. A couple of pitcher plants and some Mexican butterworts. And no insects anywhere near my apartment.
that's a curveball, man. I didn't expect to hear that. But that's I've heard of the Venus flytrap. I have no idea what the hell the other ones are. But can you train them like pets to do your bidding? Can you send them on missions to sabotage people and stuff?
You cannot. They don't really have any intelligence there. But my Cape sundews do like to eat chocolate. So.
That's wow. That's very interesting. That's very interesting, man. Well, hey, thanks for having me, and anytime. I'd love to come back on anytime, brother.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out and close this here, and we'll send the audience on their way. If you do like what you heard, if you like Brady's opinions on things, I invite you to go over and check out his podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, there will be links in the description below. If you're looking at this on the podcast platforms, there will be links that I don't believe are clickable in the podcast platforms, but I do invite you to go and search and check him out. If you are watching on YouTube, thank you, of course. You can always go over with the long forms and check us out on the audio platforms. If you're on the audio and you like the show, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes if you're there and a good review. If you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. That really helps us grow this channel. As I close every other show I do, I always ask, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Brady, you have last word.
That's well put. Yeah, definitely take everything I just said with a giant block of salt. I wouldn't say grain of salt, maybe just like a whole salt lick. Definitely get your sodium in if you want to listen to Brady Leonard talk. But yeah, again, thanks for having me, man. Hey, everybody listen, 5-star rating, good review on iTunes for my show and for this show. If I don't know if you've explained it to the audience, but it's physically impossible to make it up the iTunes charts unless people are constantly leaving reviews and ratings and stuff, because they're a bunch of commies and it's not actually based on like actual downloads. It's based on all these other metrics. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at Brady Leonard. You can follow my podcast on Twitter at No Gimmicks Pod, and it's the No Gimmicks Podcast on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. And yeah, check it out.
Take care, everyone.